Okay, we'll let the attendees populate in before we call the meeting to order.
And yes, Maggie, it says 242 Bay at the top.
Always, there's always one typo. I mean, I'm saying that as if I proofread them. I absolutely do not. I'll make a correction on the record. Just give it a second. Okay. All right, Bridget, are you good?
Yes, I'm ready, Maggie.
All right, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and call this regular meeting of the Jersey City Historic Preservation Commission to order. It's August 14th, 2023 at 6:35 p.m.
Okay, please be advised in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice of the time, date, and place of this regularly scheduled meeting of the Jersey City Historic Preservation Commission has been sent to the Jersey Journal, the Jersey City Reporter, and Ellis Besalito on Friday, August 11th. I have proof of this notice here in evidence. Bridget, we can mark this as B1.
Okay, this will be B1 for tonight's meeting in evidence.
All right, we'll move to a roll call attendance. Commissioner Gunther.
Here.
Commissioner Lewis.
Present.
Commissioner Sakong.
Here.
Commissioner Blazak.
Here.
Okay. Commissioner Sandcamp is running late, so for our purposes right now, he is absent. Commissioner Amatuzzo is absent. Commissioner Garriga is absent. Commissioner Cronin is absent. Commissioner Vice Chair Gucciardo is absent. So Chairman Gordon.
Present.
Okay, there are 5 members of the commission present. Five affirmative votes are needed for a certificate of appropriateness. All right, moving down on the agenda, we have our minutes from the July 17th meeting. Does anyone have any questions, corrections, anything like that? If not, staff recommends a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Commissioner Gunther.
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis.
Aye.
Commissioner Sakong.
I was not present, so abstain.
Okay. Commissioner Blazak.
Aye.
And Chairman Gordon.
Aye.
Okay. There are 4 votes in favor, none against, 1 abstention. The minutes from the July 17th meeting are approved. All right, for correspondence, all copies of correspondence application materials are linked on tonight's agenda through the application number. We're going to carry staff announcements to the bottom of the agenda for tonight. So then that brings us to open public comment. If there are any members of the public who would like to speak regarding matters of historic preservation that are not on tonight's agenda, you can use the raise hand function at the bottom of the screen. If you're on the phone, you can press *9. Right, staff sees no hands raised and recommends a motion to open and close public comment.
Motion to open and close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have no old business on tonight's agenda. So Robert, if you'd like to call the first case in new business.
I'll call case H22-483. The applicant is James Cornell, architect and owner. The address is 144 Erie Street in the Van Voorst Park Historic District. This application is for a certificate of appropriateness for the construction of a deck at the rear facade of a contributing, altered, brick and brownstone trimmed, transitional Greek Revival Italianate vernacular variant row house constructed circa 1860.
Thanks, James. You should be able to unmute yourself and turn on your camera.
Mute. Okay, camera. Okay.
Awesome.
Sorry.
We'll just swear you in, James.
Would you raise your right hand? Thank you. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state and spell your full name for the record.
James Cornell, James, Cornell.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Staff notes that James has previously been qualified in front of this board as an expert in the field of architecture. James, you should be able to share your screen to walk the commission through the plans.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so this shows the location of my residence. It's down here, just a little by the arrow. This is Hamilton Park that I'm circling now, and this is Erie Street right here. So this is my property currently. It's 19.4 by 75 on this side, and 19.4 wide. And then it's irregular, so I have this. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I have this little dog neck into it, and then I'd like to put a deck. If you look over here, 6-foot deck in the rear of the building, in this location with the stairs on the longer side of the property. Here's a little more detail of the property and the deck itself. So the deck is Ipe decking with a metal railing with an Ipe top cap on it. It's a 6-foot deck. Nothing untypical about it. And the stairs are run about 7 foot down. Here's an rear elevation of the property as it exists now with the deck. There's the steps coming down. This is a little sample of the railing on this side with the metal top cap and the horizontal metal rails that run this way. They would be black, and the Ipe would stay natural color with a wood stain on it. I mean, with an oil stain on it. And that's pretty much it. Straightforward. This is a section deck in the back.
Do any commissioners have any questions for James?
I'm sorry, I gotta turn my volume up.
So is the only reason this is coming to us because an undersized lot and the setback doesn't meet
Yeah.
the 30-foot rear yard?
Yep,
Yeah.
if it had a conforming rear yard, it would have been a cone. But they need a C variance.
Okay. What's the rear yard now, or what is going to be the setback after this is built?
Let me go back to the other page. Why it's not clicking in my mouth. So, about 15 foot from the step on the longest side to the back and to the deck itself, it's 22'6". There's a 22'3". That's on the long side, and then this little part here is roughly 6 feet. I can tell you up here what it is, 6'2". So we'd have to subtract that, so it would be it's at 16 feet.
And how deep is the yard itself, or the lot itself? I'm sorry.
75 feet on this long point here.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So what is it at the parlor level in the back? Are those sliding glass doors or are those just big
Yes.
windows?
Correct. Sliding glass doors currently.
And what are they open to currently?
A temporary stair that goes down to the rear yard. Maybe 2x10.
So was that built out in anticipation of this deck being built?
Yes, it was just construction stairs going down. Yeah, I had to file for the variance for this, so I did as a separate path.
It was.
I'm sorry, so I did ask what? Mr. Cornell?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
You said I had to file for the variance for this, so I did.
I filed it separate than the part of the renovation that I was doing inside. Yeah.
Thank you.
And Robert, we approved the sliding glass doors on the cone level because they had the stairs going out there. So even if the deck wasn't approved, they had access to the rear yard. It wasn't really an issue on our end as long as they came in for the deck and sought the necessary approvals.
Okay, I was just confused because on here it looks like sliding glass doors that open to a drop down.
Yeah, I didn't draw in the construction stairs that are there, I'm sorry.
Are there any other questions? All right, hearing none. James, does that conclude your testimony?
Yes, unless there are any questions now.
Okay. All right, so then we'll move into open public comment. If there are any members of the public in attendance who would like to speak regarding this application, please use the raise hand function at the bottom of the screen. If you're on the phone, you can press *9. Staff sees no hands raised and recommends a motion to open and close public comment.
Motion to open and close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we'll move into staff comments. Okay. All right, and of course, scrolling down to staff comments and recommendations. This is a pretty straightforward application. We see really no adverse effect as a result of this. Of course, there is a rear yard setback variance, but it is an irregular undersized lot. And the deck does not go further out than any other built structure within the row and on that block. So it doesn't impact that inner block donut in any way. In that case, that we recommend the approval of a certificate of appropriateness with conditions, and also recommend that the zoning board approve the associated variance. We have essentially standard conditions on this application. The only one that's not a standard condition that we typically see for COAs is we have an condition there that the fence be installed as a good neighbor fence. It's shown on the plans to be that way. We have no doubts that it'll be installed that way. It's just that's a standard condition for fences that the commission doesn't usually say. Are there any questions for staff? Hearing none. Again, the recommendation is to approve a certificate of appropriateness with conditions, and to also recommend that the zoning board approve the associated variances.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve with the conditions.
A second?
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Sakan,
Aye.
Commissioner Blazak,
Aye.
Commissioner Gunther,
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis,
Aye.
and Chairman Gordon.
Aye.
Okay, staff notes that Commissioners Amatuzo, Garriga, De Cronin, and Vice Chair Gucciardo are absent. There are 5 votes in favor, none against, and no abstentions. The COA and recommendation to zoning board is approved.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Thanks, James. All right. We want to go ahead and call the next case.
I'll now call case H23-044. The applicant is Dean Marilakos, the Hunto Club LLC tenant. The address is 292 Barrow Street in the Van Voorst Park Historic District. This application is for a certificate of appropriateness for installation of a sidewalk cafe fronting Mercer Street with 26 seats at an altered contributing mixed-use variant building within the Van Voorst Park Historic District. This is a recommendation to the Jersey City Zoning Board of Adjustment.
Thanks. Dean, we'll swear you in. I see your, okay. I see your architect on here. Joseph, you do need to accept the panelist invitation so that you can share your screen. I'm just gonna send that again and we'll swear Dean in. Bridget.
I'm just writing what you said.
I'm sorry.
Because you talk so fast.
I know, I'm sorry.
The testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, no, yeah, Dean, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, cool. Sorry, I don't know what happened. My
no
apologies.
problem. Let's go ahead and swear you in.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Just state and spell your full name for the record.
Sure. Dean Maroulakis, Dean, last name Maroulakos.
Thank you.
Dean, I saw your architect on here a couple moments ago, but I think he dropped off. Have you?
And I text him. He was just texting C. Yeah, he got kicked off.
Okay, yeah.
He's on now.
Okay. Go ahead and promote him and then we can swear him in as well.
Mr. Marilakis, your audio is a bit low. If you could keep your voice up, I'd appreciate it.
Sure thing. Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
He's now not showing up in either panelist or attendees.
Let me see. Sorry.
Maggie, he's in attendees, I think.
Yeah, I just promoted him. There we go. All right, Joseph, you should be able to turn on your camera and unmute yourself. There we go.
Oh, there you go. Sorry, I had to travel, so I was doing this on my phone.
It's all right. Why don't we go ahead and swear you in?
Sure.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And could you state and spell your full name for the record?
My name is Joseph Haynes, JOSEPHHAINES.
Thank you.
Joseph, can you just give us like a very quick overview of your credentials? I don't believe you've qualified in front of this board, been qualified in front of this board before. We're mainly just looking if you're qualified in the state, licensed in the state of New Jersey.
Okay. I'm sorry, I lost you for a second. I went to School of Architecture, NJIT, graduated in 1991 with a Bachelor of Architecture. I've been practicing my own practice for 25 years, first in Montclair, and now it's in Nutley, New Jersey. I've testified in front of historical boards of both Montclair and Glen Ridge.
Great. That sounds perfect. Staff recommends that the chair accept qualifications of Mr. Haynes as an expert in the field of architecture.
Thank you.
All right. Dean, Joseph, Dean, do you want to give an overview of the application?
Sure. So we are looking to seek approval to do a temporary seasonal outdoor sidewalk cafe on the Mercer Street side of our. We're looking to do, I believe it's 9 tables with about 26 seats along the side, leaving the appropriate clearances for pedestrian right of way to be taken down nightly, and seeking for the March through November seasonal usage.
To make it a little bit easier, I put up the plans that were submitted. Is there anything on here you'd like to specifically point out? You or Joseph? I can zoom in, out.
Sure. Joe, do you want to comment or?
Sure. We're just providing cafe seating on the outside with temporary fencing. Both the seating and fencing is going to be brought in every night. We made sure we went out and checked field measurements, all the tree pits, signage, and everything, and made sure that there was a clear path for pedestrians along the sidewalk of greater than 5 feet, so we wouldn't interfere with any kind of pedestrian traffic. And all the cafe seating is going to be on the south side of the building. We're not doing any work to the building at all. There's nothing to be attached to the building. It's all going to be outside seating, umbrellas, and fencing.
Great, thank you. Just for the commission's review, just scroll up and show the proposed sidewalk fence and also the proposed umbrella are on the left side of the screen. Right, do any commissioners have any questions? Okay.
Maggie, are we at all concerned about the furniture, or it's more we're evaluating the configuration?
The furniture is really ephemeral. It's not a hard installation. So as long as it's not, when I evaluate the furniture, I'm really just looking to see if it's something that can feasibly be brought in every single night. And the specs that the photos that they submitted of what they'll be putting out there are things that we regularly see brought in and out every night. So from a staff perspective, I'm not particularly concerned about that. There's
Okay.
no specific guidance in our ordinance that says we can or can't review that, if that answers your question as well.
Oh, I see that there were images of the tables and chairs submitted as well, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Any additional questions, concerns? All right, hearing none. Dean, Joseph, anything else you want to say to conclude your testimony?
No, just to add to the furniture, it's the same furniture that we did use when we had the temporary COVID seating as well. So we had submitted for approval of that prior.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Before we move into staff comments, we'll open this to the public. If there are any members of the public in attendance who would like to speak regarding this application, please use the raise hand function at the bottom of the screen. Alternatively, you can press *9 on the phone. Staff sees no hands raised and recommends a motion to open and close public comment.
Motion to open, close public comment.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move into staff comments. I will go ahead and share the screen. I will note for the record, up at the top, it does say 242 Bay Street, where I have it highlighted here. This is obviously 292 Barrow Street. The block and lot are correct, just forgot to change that part. All right. Similarly to the last application, this is a pretty straightforward sidewalk cafe. It's consistent with the sidewalk cafe ordinance as well as Secretary of the Interior standards, and we do not think it will have an adverse effect on either the historic resource or the Van Voorst Park Historic District. So we do recommend approval of a certificate of appropriateness and the variance associated with this project to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. So we have conditions for this approval that we're recommending as well. We haven't seen a sidewalk cafe approval in quite a bit because of COVID, so I'm just going to briefly go over them with the commission. Part of the conditions is just noting how many seats are the maximum amount of seats, that the seating and barriers shall be removed and placed in the building in the evening, and that no part of the outdoor cafe should obstruct the public right of way. And then we have some standard conditions below, just that, you know, if we walk out there and the barriers are suddenly an additional 4 feet out and they're blocking the public right of way, things like that. Any changes between now and construction do need to come to us for approval. We also note on here that sidewalk cafe approvals for HPC are done on a yearly basis in addition to commerce. So if a certificate of appropriateness is granted for this, you just have to apply under a certificate of no effect to renew that COA every year. It's straightforward. It just does need to be done yearly. Right. Are there any questions for staff?
I actually had two questions. One, has anything changed with the sidewalk cafe ordinance since 2019 or whenever we last heard one through COVID? And two, why is this going to the zoning board?
So the sidewalk cafe ordinance has changed to include parklets, and also has changed definition wise as to how we define permanent sidewalk cafe, temporary sidewalk cafe, parklet, make those changes. This fall, like Dean said, this falls under a temporary sidewalk cafe because it is limited by seasonality. So it will go out and come in with what is defined as seasonal. This is going to the zoning board of adjustment because it needs a C variance for a conditional use. I'm sorry, a D variant, a D3. I keep calling it a C variance for conditional use. It's a D3 variance for conditional use. The way the conditional uses are written for the Van Voorst Park Historic District is that you can have a sidewalk cafe over here as long as your primary entrance to your building is on Mercer Street. And the primary entrance for this is not on Mercer Street. So it was determined by Nick Taylor that it needs a variance. It is some kooky phrasing.
Right.
So going back to the furniture question, I'm not concerned with it. I just want to understand, because I did look back at when we did one of these in September 2019, and there was some discussion at that time about the umbrellas needing to be specifically reviewed and approved by the HPC. And I believe at the time, Maggie, you had indicated that could be done at the staff level, but it was something that needed to be vetted. Is there something specific about the umbrellas that we're looking at that, but not the tables and chairs? To me, it's.
No, I
on the
don't.
same.
I mean, you've probably looked at it more recently than I have. From what I remember with that particular application, they didn't submit umbrellas. And they said during their testimony they were going to use umbrellas.
Right.
So I think we just asked for them to submit some kind of specification just so we, and that's mostly from from an aesthetic standpoint, that's going to be the most obtrusive thing. And I think Dan just wanted to make sure it wasn't going to be like a fluorescent blue umbrella that said high noon on it.
Well, in a similar vein, I guess I'm wondering if the applicant here wanted to swap out the furniture, would the HPC be looking at that, or can they put whatever they want out there?
So that'll be a staff approval unless it changes the number of seats or tables or anything dramatically, right? Like I'm not going to sit here and say that I wouldn't approve under staff if they wanted to add another 2-top to that. But if suddenly they were like, hey, we want to extend the sidewalk cafe down to wrap it around onto Barrow and add another 15 tables or whatever, that would likely have to come back for approval. And I don't think there's room for that. I don't think anyone should be concerned about that.
Okay, I'm fine with that being approved at the staff level. I just wanted to make sure that it was understood that that still does need to come back to the HPC, at least at the staff level.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for staff? All right. I do want to note for the record, it's 7:04 and Commissioner Sandkamp has arrived. So we do have 6 members in attendance. All right. If there are no other questions for staff, again, the recommendation here is the approval of a certificate of appropriateness with conditions and a recommendation to the zoning board of adjustment for approval of the conditional use variance.
Make the motion.
Second.
Okay, we'll do a roll call. Commissioner Lewis,
Aye.
Commissioner Sakong,
Aye.
Commissioner Blazak,
Aye.
Commissioner Gunther,
Aye.
Commissioner Sankamp,
I think I'm going to abstain. I didn't hear most of that application.
sounds good.
So yes, I'm going to abstain.
Great. All right, Commissioner Amatuzo is absent, Commissioner Griga is absent, Commissioner Cronin is absent, Vice Chair Gucciardo is absent, Chairman Gordon.
Aye.
Okay, there are 5 votes in favor, none against, and 1 abstention. The COA with conditions and recommendation to the zoning board is approved.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so Robert, if you'd like to go ahead and call the next one.
I will call case H 22-420. The applicant is Heather Coomer Esquire on behalf of Carolyn and David Sutton, owners. The address is 313 Varick Street. This application is for a certificate of appropriateness for the construction of a terrace on an existing one-story rear addition, partially visible from Mercer Street, with steps to the rear yard of an altered, contributing circa 1890 Italianate brownstone fronted row house in the Van Vorst Park Historic District. This is a recommendation to the Jersey City Zoning Board of Adjustment.
Heather, you should be able to unmute yourself and turn on your camera. I am still waiting for Russ to accept the panelist invitation.
Okay, let me text him.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's coming through as declined to be, but I think that might just be if it sits there for a minute or two.
Architects.
This
hold
one
on a sec.
is my computer.
I'm sorry, Heather, while we're waiting, you sound very muffled. I don't know if you're too close to the microphone. Can you just,
Sure, can you hear me now?
yeah, just lower your volume a little. I usually don't say that.
I have a presence.
Okay.
All right, let me just give him a call.
Oh, Russ is on. He's good.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, I'll start.
All right. Let's get Russ sworn in and then we'll take it from there.
Hi, my name is Heather Coomer. I'm on behalf of Caroline Sutton for 313 Varick Street. We are seeking approval to for a deck and patio, pretty much like the first approval that you did. This is a pretty straightforward case here. It matches the length of the existing ones in the back, but for more detail, I'm going to hand it to our architect, Russell Bodnar. I should note that we're asking from the zoning board because it's not even a minor site plan. So of course, if you're asking for variances with nothing else, we go right to the zoning board. We're looking for a rear yard setback. I believe it was building coverage. And that being noted, Russ, take it away.
Great. Russ, let's go ahead and swear you in first.
Okay.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, and just state and spell your full name for the record.
My name is Russell, last name is Bodnar, B-O-D-N-A-R. I reside at 52 Long Hill Road in Long Valley, New Jersey, and I've been a licensed architect since 1995. And I've appeared before this board many times.
Was just about to say, we have qualified you as an expert in architecture many times. All right, you should be able to share your screen, Russ.
All right, share screen. You guys are all like where my spot is. Okay. As you can see here, we're actually located at 313 Varick Street. It's in the middle of the block between I think it's Monmouth and Monmouth and Montgomery and I forgot what the other one was. One north and Mercer. It's actually an existing building, everything's there. The only thing we're really doing to the back, if you can take a look at the existing survey of the property and proposed site plan. In the rear, we have a one-story masonry existing addition that was done many, many years ago. And now we're looking to put a little terrace over the top of that existing roof and some stairs down to the rear yard. So that's basically what we're thinking of trying to do. Like this thing though. Now let's go to, as you can see here again, we go to the next sheet. As you can see on the left-hand side is the lower level where the stairs are going to go down to. The reason we have to go to the zoning board is our stair encroaches into our rear yard setback. So that's the main reason why we have to go to the zoning board after we get an approval from historic. Again, we can go down to the next page below. You can see the rear of the elevation as it exists now. We're taking this window out and putting a door in its place. We're leaving the other existing window in place. We're putting a new set of railings in the rear, aluminum style railings in the rear, and a little like composite fence. As you can see, this kind of composite fence for like a privacy screen adjacent, as well as we're using composite decking for the decking and for the stairs as well. If we go back down to the following page, you can see this is our existing front of our building on 313 Varick Street. This is actually a picture from the Mercer Street side. As you can see in the wintertime, through this fence, and through these bushes, you can actually see our building, but that's the only time you can actually even see where the deck would be. It would be in that location right here. From the Montgomery Street side, you can't see anything because right here is an existing fence that's too tall, and there's actually a deck adjacent to our property. If I can get this to look down a little bit more. I'm sorry, guys, here, let me go back to this one here. My pointer does not want to seem to let me go down. Oh, there it is. Oh, it keeps disappearing before I can grab it. Doesn't want to come up tonight for some reason. Must be running out of power. As you can see, if I can get down to that location, before I can get there, let's try it again. It won't let me do it. 1 second. I can do it real quick if I can grab this tag. Oh, there we go. All right, as you can see down at the end, down here at the bottom, you can see our back of our existing rear, our facade is just has that little roof on top of it. That's where we're planning on putting our deck and our stairs coming down. And as you can see to the actually to the right of our property going south, they actually have the same exact type concept on their property. Going 2 doors down from us, they have a deck with a stair to their rear of their property. So we're pretty much just asking for the same exact thing they have. And that's pretty much the gist of our project here. If you want me to kind of go over anything else, I mean, this is pretty much it. As you can see on the floor plan, just a new door going to the rear. The deck itself is only about 140 square feet, and the steps themselves are about 29 square feet going to the rear of the property. Any questions?
I just want to like to add that I want to put a correction on the record. So we are asking for variances again for the rear yard setback, and then also relief from the maximum lot coverage. Before I said building coverage, I corrected myself.
Are there any questions for Russ or Heather?
Is this an undersized lot, or is it how
Yeah,
large?
it's an undersized lot. It's only I think it's only 20 by 85. It's actually 20 by it's only 20 by 75. So that's the reason we're not very deep. We're actually 21 foot 4 inches existing from the existing masonry structure to the rear property line. And again, the deck itself, the terrace we're putting on, is still 21 feet 4 inches from there. But the problem comes down to we're only 15 foot 3 inches when we get to the bottom of that step at the bottom. And we need to be, I think it's 25 minimum anyhow. So we don't kind of meet those requirements right now. Anything else?
That concludes our presentation.
All right. Any other comments from commissioners, or should we move into public comment?
Just one quick question. I think I'm reading the plans correctly that for the two end bits for the terrace, you're actually proposing a visually opaque fencing system that's different from the guardrail portion that faces out to the rear yard. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's this privacy fencing on the end of it, down here on this thing where it says privacy board on board fence. It's back here on the end. It's 6 feet tall. It was actually a kind of request from the neighbor also has it down the line. It was actually a request from historic as well. They wanted us to do that, and so this way we have kind of not look over somebody else's property, because adjacent to us again, there's another deck that somebody might come in for that would, that has a little extension like this as well.
You said that's 6 feet tall?
It's 6 feet tall, yes. So it's not real tall, but it's kind of like if let's say if you're sitting down, looking at somebody. And you're still looking out, obviously, the back of the deck itself is these standard aluminum railings back here.
Yeah. I'm not, it's not giving me heartburn per se, but I'm a little bit concerned with it, with the height and the opacity of it.
Yeah, if you want to look, let me get back down this. See a couple doors down from us. See this right here? Is it basically the same thing? Yeah, they're 6 feet tall as well. That's a really tall fence going down along here. They put the whole railing going down at 6 feet tall. So it's a little bit weird. I'm not doing a railing that tall.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Just-
our point is, and we're matching the neighbors.
Does anybody know, excuse me, if, anything about the neighboring condition is not above board in any way?
I
Since
don't
we're
really
using
know.
it as a comparison?
I don't know. Their stairs are right on the property line. We were forced to move our stairs away from the property line, but this might have been approved earlier. That was probably maybe not a requirement now.
Do you have a sample of the proposed door?
The door itself is I don't know if I have a sample in here. It actually might have been done. We did a renovation of the entire interior, and this door might have already been put in already during the course of construction. I'm not too sure, but I have a detail for that as well. The door itself is is actually a Pella door. So the aluminum clad Pella door.
And on the drawing, I see there's a note here just to the left of the door for the exhaust pipe extension. Can you explain what I'm looking at there?
Yeah, there's actually there's a bathroom. There's a bathroom exhaust pipe that comes from the bathroom up a little bit. So we're just gonna extend it up so it's 7 feet against the wall. So right now it only pops up about a foot off the ground here. So they're just gonna pop that up a little higher and then fill it, and then so this way you don't want have your bathroom exhaust kind of dumping onto the deck. So you have to be 7 feet tall for that. So it's just really a thing that's only like 4 inches off the house. So it's like a little tiny thing that would just stick out a little bit.
I see.
Are there any additional questions? All right, Heather and Russ, does that conclude your testimony?
Yes.
Great. All right. We can move to open public comment. However, there are no members of the public currently on this meeting. So if anyone wants to make a motion to open and close public comment, that would be great.
Motion, Sankamp.
I'm
All in
sorry,
favor?
who did that first?
Sankamp.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. All right, we will move into staff comments. All right, we will go down to the bottom as per usual. So this proposal is mostly consistent with Secretary of the Interior. It is with, there's additions and decks like this on the vast majority of this block, so it's certainly not atypical for the block. And the fact that it will be partially visible is also not atypical from the block. In that photo that Russ showed, you can see everyone's decks in this case. So it's really not going to be an adverse effect on the character or the historic district. I took over this application for Sarah, so I can't opine on the privacy fence question, Austin. However, if the neighbor has it, there's no, which in the neighbors, it would be approved. It's something that is approvable. A 6-foot fence is permitted. If they would also like one, I don't really see an issue with having one. There was a period of time where they were strongly recommended. We've kind of backed off from strongly recommending them, but they're certainly not inappropriate. So that being said, staff recommends the approval of a COA with conditions and also approve a recommendation to the zoning board to approve the variances associated with this project. The conditions proposed are all of our standard conditions for this type of work, inclusive of any downcast rear lighting, proposal plantings and landscapings conforming with the forestry standards, and of course any changes need to come back to the HPC. Do any commissioners have any questions? Okay. If there are none, again, the recommendation is for approval of the COA with conditions and recommendation for approval to the zoning board.
Oh, my only
Motion.
question was, do we allow, we are approving composite fences now?
In this particular case, I don't have an issue with the composite fencing because I view it as an extension of the composite flooring on the deck. If this was in someone's backyard, that would probably be a different scenario.
Okay, so
And by
that,
backyard, I mean like in the ground.
okay, so that is not, I just wanted to be clear because I noticed it at the end. That's not at the backyard itself. That's
Yeah,
just
right.
Okay.
This is a lot if this is a lot easier to remove than something that is installed in the ground.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve with conditions.
I'll second.
Okay. Move to a roll call vote. Commissioner Sankamp.
Aye.
Commissioner Gunther.
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis.
Aye.
Commissioner Sakong.
Aye.
Commissioner Blazak.
Aye.
Commissioner Matuzo is absent. Commissioner Garriga is absent. Commissioner Cronin is absent. And Commissioner Gucciardo is absent. Chairman Gordon.
Aye.
All right, there are 6 votes in favor, none against, no abstentions. The COA with conditions and recommendation to the zoning board is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Guys. All right. Great. So, Robert, if you want to call the next item on the agenda, our fun one.
And that would be announcements.
No, it's introduction of the bylaw.
Okay, I knew there was something we had to come back to. Where is that?
Hold on. It's D, it's one sentence. I can call it if you want.
Yeah, go. I'm not. I can't see it.
So I did send out a reissued version of the agenda on Friday.
Oh,
Sunshine. So if you're looking at the one I sent out on Wednesday, yeah. So next up is item 9D, which is the introduction and discussion of a proposed bylaw amendment. So I'll share my screen and walk the commission through what the amendment is first, and then we can kind of have a larger discussion as to why it is happening. All right, so the amendment itself that we're proposing to introduce tonight to the bylaws is very straightforward in and of itself, right? So it is in Article 5 for meetings, Section 7, which is the order of business for the commission. So we're making two changes here, right? The first is to formally remove the Pledge of Allegiance from the commission order. We have not done the Pledge of Allegiance at a meeting in years. Essentially, since we switched to Zoom, we really have not done it. It is deeply awkward to do over Zoom, so we decided to stop doing it.
I was doing it, and I can attest to the fact that it was deeply awkward. Yes.
Yeah, and it's not required for us to do. So because we have not done it in a period of time, we're proposing to formally take it out of the bylaws. If we want to add it back in when we go back to meeting in person, we can do that. The larger addition, you'll see right here, is a section under new business called demolition review. This would be a new item to the agenda that would have items in it every week. So that's the only, I'll explain what that is in a second. That's the only real change that we are proposing. So that demolition review, I mentioned it at the last meeting, that we would have a larger discussion about demolitions. But I believe it was like the third week of July, Jonathan, I don't know if you remember the day that the Bernardo appellate court decision came out.
It was July 14th.
Yeah. All right. There were a couple news articles about it, unless you're not closely following the appellate division of the New Jersey court system. A section of the demo ordinance got overturned. This has been a relatively prolonged legal proceeding with one particular applicant whose determination we denied on Sherman Place, and then they appealed it to the zoning board denied it, they appealed it to Superior Court denied it, and then they took it to the appellate court, and the appellate court did not reverse the decision, but they did say, hey, this determination of significance section of your ordinance has no basis in the MLUL, and you really can't have your historic preservation officer making those decisions unilaterally. This also applies to demolition permit decisions as well. So anything that is decided under Chapter 105, which is that demo permit section, the court said that essentially the historic preservation officer cannot be making those decisions on their own without the guidance of the HPC. Jonathan, does that, you feel free to jump in at any point.
Oh no, yeah, you're doing an excellent job. That
Okay.
is it.
Okay. So we have spoken quite a bit. By we, I mean myself, Tanya, the law department, spoken quite a bit about a number of different ways that we can take this opinion and act within it. And there are two ways that we're going to go forward that we're changing how we treat demolition reviews. The first is that we're getting rid of determinations of significance. The court said they are not legal and we can't do them anymore. So it's as simple as that. So just to remind everyone, because you guys don't really see determinations all that often. Determination for a non-binding opinion by the historic preservation officer or the historic preservation staff. So me, Dan, or Sarah, or at any time, I guess Jake was also in that mix making those decisions as well. You could apply for that as a developer, as someone who is looking to purchase a property, to find out if you could demolish a building, if you would likely be approved to demolish a building in advance of purchasing a property. And they were pretty popular applications. We had they actually became part of the planning board and zoning board process as well. But the state said that we cannot do those anymore because there's no basis for them in the MLUL. So we are, not for the time being, we have removed the ability to apply for those applications from the city's website and systems, and we have any ongoing applications for those. We have refunded the applicants and said, we're sorry for the inconvenience, but we can't move forward on this because of this court decision. The second way that we think that we can address demolitions is by having the HPC, all of you guys, review and make a determination on any demolitions that we deny as staff. So these would be specifically for demo permits. And it kind of would function similar. If you take the framework of a cone versus a COA, it would function kind of similarly, right? Like we can approve cones on a staff level, but we can't deny cones on a staff level. So we're taking that legal framework and applying it to a demolition permit where we'll still be able to approve demos on a staff level. However, any demos that we are recommending to deny, the court said that the HPC staff does not have the ability to do that ourselves. We have to seek an opinion from the Historic Commission before we deny a demo permit, or before we recommend denial of a demo permit. So that demolition review section of the meeting, we would list any demo permits that we are going to deny there and give applicants for them the ability to appear at the meeting and provide some additional context. For everyone's purposes, I did pull the demo numbers from 2022. We got just under 500 applications, and we denied demo permit wise, we denied 7 demo permits, but we did deny a lot of determinations of significance. So I would love to say I don't think this is going to have a huge impact on our meeting times because we really only denied 7 of those applications, but I don't know how many determinations are going to fall into a demo permit now that we remove that application type entirely. My assumption is that people will kind of go back to doing things the old way. So prior to this demo permit, you would just either have people applying for demo permits who were not legal owners of the property or legal representatives of the property owner, or you would have to have the owner of the property apply for a demo permit and receive one as contingent of the sale. So I'm sure that the amount of demo permits we will get will increase. I just really don't know by how much.
So Maggie, just to clarify that point, so a third party who has no formal relationship with the property can make that application?
On a determination of significance, yeah. But not for a demo permit. Technically, if you're applying for any kind of permit, you're supposed to be the owner of the property or the, I don't want to call it legal, authorized representative of the property owner. So those are legally the only people who should be applying for a demo permit. In the past, I can't sit here and say like, oh, I knew that many people were doing that. I only worked within the old ordinance for about a week and a half, but typically that is my understanding of how it was done.
Maggie, question following on that is, are we referring to just buildings that are not in the districts then I'm assuming?
Correct.
So anything
Yeah.
in Jersey City that's not in the district that are we considering these determinations, or we're
No.
saying these are applications for demo?
These are applications for a demo permit for things that are outside of a municipally designated historic district or individually designated landmarks. So, because we have a separate ordinance for stuff that's landmarked or in districts. So it's the first step of a demo permit.
So this is going to be another section, sort of in the same way that we have old business, new business, and then demo business.
Yep.
And the demo business, there might be new business that's demo, but it's in the district, partial or something. And
Correct.
these are demos that are just outside the districts that have been deemed by staff to need to possibly be in a situation where they would be denied
Yeah,
because
the way,
there's significance. There's some significance there.
right,
So we
the
would get a
way that
normal
we,
staff report. You'd still be able to give us a staff report.
yep,
The
yeah,
same,
the staff report
just-
would look a little bit different. But it's essentially, the way that we do demos now is we're not, the HPC staff is not its own administrative officer. So every action that we take for a demo is really a recommendation to the zoning officer. So it's more when we are going to recommend to the zoning officer that a demo permit be denied, it will come to the HPC first. You guys will be able to review it and say, yes, we think this building should be denied. No, we disagree with staff and think you can recommend that they approve it.
Thanks.
And is it still going to be what's the firm that you had doing them?
Hunter
Patrick
Research.
Hunter. Hunter's still going to be doing writing these memos, or
Yeah, so we have a contract with Hunter through the end of the year. So Hunter currently assists us in reviewing them just because of application load. So at least through the end of the year, they will be reviewing these. I don't necessarily see that changing for 2024 either, but the contract's only through the end of the year. And the way they do them is they take kind of a first pass at it. They make a recommendation. We review their recommendation. Most of the time we agree with it. Occasionally we go back and forth, and then we make any necessary changes and issue it. So it's mostly Hunter, some of us.
So Maggie, I think you said that sometimes the current property owner will make the application, but it will be contingent upon the subsequent sale.
So that's what I anticipate happening by getting rid of a determination of significance. That does not currently happen.
Why would it be contingent on the sale? Just because they get the permit, they're not obligated to go forward with the demolition, right?
So, right, so the reality of the way that demos and determinations have been functioning within the city is that, well, when we put this ordinance into effect, we were like, okay, well, maybe people will apply for these determinations because they want to know if their house is historic. Maybe they want to make it a landmark, maybe all of this stuff. In reality, determinations of significance are almost exclusively applied for by lawyers, developers, or real estate agents, because people want to know ahead of time before they put a house on the market or purchase a property if they can take it down. That is essentially how these have functioned for the past 5 years. So my assumption is that by removing the ability for these for applicants to get an opinion on if you can take it down ahead of time, they will make the sale of a property contingent on the current homeowner receiving a demolition permit or receiving a prior approval from us. That is my, and of course, that's just me assuming how I think it will happen. It could end up being completely different from that.
No, I think you're spot on. The sale will be contingent. I thought you were saying the demo permit would be contingent. I misunderstood.
Yeah. I apologize if I misspoke. Yeah, the sale would be contingent on them getting a demo permit. We are still kind of really working through what the implications long-term of this court decision are. But we believe that by making these changes, we will be acting within the court decision and legally will be okay with continuing our reviews. And from a transparency perspective, an item that repeatedly comes up during public meetings is that members of the public want to know what we're approving for demo and what we're not approving for demo ahead of time. This does not show, of course, all of them, right? But at least the members of the public will have the ability to opine before we deny something. We can't put putting approvals on here would A, we are not legally required to. B, would be an administrative nightmare to the degree that I do not think it is feasible for staff to execute in any capacity, past, present, future.
If the public wanted to find that out, they could go to zoning, right? Is this just what it's just a recommendation to zoning, right?
Right. And it also, so determinations of significance, we only release them to the applicant because anyone could apply for them, right? They were just an informal opinion. Demo permits, because they're applied for by the owner, you can also file an OPRA if you wanted to. So from a transparency perspective, it does address some of the things that members of the public have been asking for a while.
So what does this process look like if staff feels that it cannot approve the permit, then is the applicant then notified? And you said they're given an opportunity, so that it may be that if staff says, I can't approve this, they may just not pursue it further and it may not come to us?
Yeah, so the way we foresee it happening is when we go to schedule a meeting, we will review our demo log. Anything that we're going to issue a denial on will go onto the meeting. The commission will get the documents that we use to review the demo permit, and then the applicant will be notified that it's being reviewed by the HPC for a recommendation to the zoning officer. The applicant will have the ability to come to the meeting and testify as any other applicant would. If they would like to bring professionals, they're certainly welcome to bring professionals. I will make sure and I'm anticipating this to be, for lack of a better term, a growing pain. I will make sure that the applicants understand that in this case, a professional would be a historic preservation professional, a historian, an architectural historian, and not like an engineer, because we're not reviewing these buildings for structural stability. We are simply reviewing them based on their integrity, if they're in any of our surveys. It's a very limited scope that we review under for these. And then once the applicant gives testimony, if they choose to give testimony, the commission will be able to make a recommendation.
I'm just thinking that some people may continue to use these in much the same way they have been up until now, meaning that they'll submit the application and see if staff can approve it, and then they may just abandon the application after that.
Which is also a possible outcome as well.
But they don't have to take any further action for us to then review it. We're going to be spending our time potentially reviewing it, even if they're not really serious about pursuing it.
Unfortunately, yes. And that is something that currently happens with demo permits and determinations. It's just that the commission doesn't see that aspect of it because we do it at the staff level.
So if it's on the agenda and the applicant doesn't show up, do we still review it?
Yes. Because you're making a recommendation based off of my recommendation to the zoning officer.
I think if that happens, it could be done very quickly. It could just hear, it could be done very quickly.
Yeah, depending if there's no applicants.
I need one speaker, please.
Sorry. If there's no applicants present, it can almost be treated like a consent agenda. If you guys want to approve, make all the same recommendations that I did, but there is the possibility that it goes rather quickly.
And I can't imagine, between yourself and Hunter's staff, I can't imagine us disagreeing with the recommendation very often. Because I know, having done it, I know what the criteria are. Not that I'm saying we'd be a rubber stamp, but these are things where if you're looking at it and you're going to the trouble of saying that this is a denial, I think it will be well thought out and fall within those parameters of integrity, etc. The only other thing I was to say is if we do hear, though, there will also be public testimony as well, or the public can comment on it.
Yes.
The only other thing I would say is if we do end up starting to get a lot of these, and you can see how it works out, you know, in the interest of time, it might behoove us to, like, lately things have been moving very quickly, and maybe just try to train applicants and architects to really go through applications a little quicker for us, and maybe that's also an overall comment. We've been lucky this meeting and the last meeting where things have moved quickly, but there have been some times where architects or applicants really just are unnecessarily long, and I don't think it's to anyone's benefit except them charging their clients. So I think that we're like, if we start to see a lot of these and agendas start to get long, it might be like you really need to do your presentation and aim for like 15 minutes, you know, and
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just
we
something
can
that-
we can revisit the specific methods of doing this if it becomes kind of a repeated issue. I was pretty intentional with how I phrased this in the proposed bylaw amendment, which like I didn't say like demo denial review. I just said demolition review. So I think the inclusion on the bylaws is really what needs the approving, and then we can kind of suss out the best way to do it once we're kind of in the weeds.
Well, in terms of the best way to do it, was any consideration given to, rather than having this as a regular agenda item, having a dedicated meeting every so often, whether that's quarterly or?
So we can't do a dedicated meeting because we have 45 days to review demolition applications.
Okay.
I did consider putting them into new business instead. But new business requires a set, like in my head, right? If the commission looks at all of them and ahead of time and says, we're gonna approve all of these, we could vote on it almost as a consent agenda item. Rather than with new business, you have to do a separate proceeding each time for each item. And I don't necessarily think that we're not going to do that for this, but by having it as its own item, it gives us a little bit more flexibility.
Maggie, is there a fee structure for this, and is that changing at all? Is it coming
Fee
in front of us?
structure is not changing. The fee structure was recently updated with the fee updates that went into effect January of this year. A demolition permit HPC review is $250. Determinations of significance were $150. Okay. Actually, just while I'm thinking about fees, that fee won't change now that it would have to denials would have to be reviewed. However, they would have to pay the court reporter deposit just like any other applicant. Okay. Anyone have any questions on this?
Are we voting on this tonight?
Yeah, so the vote tonight is for introduction of the bylaw amendment. At the next, if this is successfully introduced tonight, the next meeting would be when it's adopted, and then you would see your first demolition review at the first October meeting.
I'll make a motion to, I guess, approve introduction of the bylaw amendment.
Second.
Okay, we'll move to a roll call vote. Commissioner Sankamp,
Aye.
Commissioner Gunther,
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis,
Aye.
Commissioner Sakong,
Aye.
Commissioner Blazak,
Aye.
Commissioner Amatuzzo, Garriga, Cronin are absent, Vice Chair Gucciardo is absent, Chairman Gordon.
A reluctant aye.
There are 6 votes in favor, none against, no abstentions. The bylaw amendment is adopted. Right.
Robert, you really wanted that Pledge of Allegiance in there, huh?
It was actually, no, Robert actually asked, like, when he was chair last, he's like texted me, he was like, we have to take that out of the bylaws.
And you
Which
questioned
we're
my
getting to it.
patriotism.
Something else had to trigger first. We got to it. All right. Before we finish out the agenda, I didn't want to like put a downer at the beginning of the meeting, but just in terms of staff announcements, I think it's pretty obvious Sarah is not on this meeting. Her last day with the city was last Friday. She did not have the ability to tell everyone at the July meeting, but she took a job with FEMA. We're very happy for her, and are frankly in dire straits without her. She did a lot of the stuff that you guys don't say. So yeah, big bummer. If anyone knows anyone who wants to work with me, the postings on the city website. The salary is, I can't do anything about that. It's actually much higher than it used to be. Anyway, with that, let's quickly finish up the agenda. I have no updates on tabled cases except for 247th Street, which will be back next meeting. Like I said at the meeting prior to this, they made quite a bit of changes, reduced the density, reduced the size. So hopefully it's a little bit more amenable. No resolutions to introduce or discuss, no resolutions to memorialize, no executive session, which just leaves us with adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, it is 7:50. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.